Hello, my friends. Welcome back to your Analyst Training Level 2 Connection Charts. This is your bonus class. We are going to be doing a demonstration of how to do an analysis. And thank you very much to Katja, who put together some beautiful slides. It's just going through to make sure that they're all working, and they are, so I'm excited to get us started. When it comes to giving somebody a bonus relationship a relationship analysis, the thing I wrote here is story. You're telling them a story, just like you tell them a story with the body graph. So too, we also want to tell them the story of their relationship and help them make sense of things that maybe are bugging them. For me personally, I like to provide solutions, see where the problem is, and then give it an objective perspective on what maybe could be supportive when it comes to making sense of all of the relationship challenges that one might have. So, let's see, we'll get started here. This is actually myself and my husband, as you can see, and here are our mandalas together. So you can see that we have a lot of, let me see if I can switch gears here, hang on. I'm going to pretend, instead of talking to you, I'm going to pretend that I'm talking to them so that it would be more realistic, because I remember one of the things that you had asked for was, don't tell us what not to say, tell us what to say, Lavina. Okay, let's do it. Let's give it a try. Okay, so welcome Lavina and Oren to your relationship analysis. I'm so pleased to be able to give this information to you. Very excited and honored that you picked me as your analyst for today's session. So as you already have had your foundation analyses together and you've been experimenting with human design for a while, you know what your type is, you know what your authority is, you know how you're here to make decisions correctly. What we're going to do today is speak specifically, I'll do my best to give you all of the tips and tricks I know of that I can see from the challenges that are present in your relationship analysis. Because what happens when we are in relationship, we become something more than just what we are as individuals, you might have noticed. And so you, Lavina, as a projector who is here to have success, and your emotional clarity ruling the day, you could say, it is important for you to recognize that it's not someone else's fault. No one is to blame when things go what you could call wrong, the challenges, the upsets. You know this. Trial and error is your learning process, and embracing the discovery, finding the flaws, and then being able to stand up as a heretic, somebody who has practical solutions in times of crisis. When you feel like it's time for you to be able to share your inspiration, that is where you can have the success of your purpose as a right angle cross of contagion. Okay, so now if we look at Oren's chart, hi Oren, you, as you know, are a projector. You're here to wait for the invitation. And what can happen when you don't do that is there's this bitterness instead of the sweet success that you were born for. You too are a split definition, and it's not your fault if something happens to where you have issues or challenges or upsets, especially when it comes to your relationship with Lavina. So as a heretical investigator with the emotional clarity that's unconscious, it's important for you to remember to wait out the emotional wave, that vacillation back and forth between hope and pain. As a left angle cross of confrontation, you're here to have a fulfillment of purpose through others, specific others, and I'll show you why Lavina is one of those people that you're here to have a fulfillment of purpose with, to help her confront when the truth is necessary, to confront those shadows and demons, which you can see as someone who is hope motivated. He knows that, so I would say that. Okay, so if we look at the two of you together, you are both coming together and creating something more than just what you are individually. So again, you never really know your partner. You only know the thing that the two of you become. And today what we're going to be focused on is describing for you some practical advantages and disadvantages to analyzing the thing the two of you become so that you can better understand what your relationship is. So as you can see here, we have a beautiful full body graph. And you know, one of the things my first analyst, relationship analyst, told me when I was we were wanting to get married oops, I went into personal perspective, was that you can have a relationship that looks really good on paper, but there's still lots of challenges. So you two have a relationship that looks really good on paper. All these beautiful things that are colored in, you know, this and that. And we're going to deconstruct the this and that so that you can understand what's actually happening when the two of you come together, when you're on the same path in life and trajectory. That's what love is. Love is looking in the mirror and waking up every day and seeing that same face with you. That's love, the trajectory that is aligned. So, beautiful. Let's move on. What we can see here, when we first analyze a body graph, we're going to talk about how common or companionship, a connection, there we go. We're going to talk about the connection that the two of you have, as in similarities as well as differences. So one of the things I like to do when I look at somebody's analysis is to get some statistics, to just get a big overarching viewpoint of what's going on in the body graph. Of the 64 gates that are possible to have activated, the two of you carry 34 of these genetic traits. 18 of them are collective, which is all about sharing. 8 of them are individual, which is all about empowerment, and 8 of them are tribal, which is all about support. So you can see the dominance of the energetics within your design are collective, meaning there's going to be a lot of sharing going on between the two of you, not just with the two of you, each of you individually, but also when it's correct for you to share whatever inspires or you imagine would be empowering for other people to know about. So thank you, Oren, for giving me permission to analyze our charts, because it is near and dear to my heart to be able to talk about the most transformative thing in my life, which is having you. Okay, back to if I was talking to them. Now, can you see how you have some lines here? Oops, internet connection. Hang on just a sec. Can you see how you have some lines here? We have 6 lines in the body graph. The first quality of the line value is investigative, and that's a big part of what you guys are together, investigating each other. 7 elements, investigating. 7 of them are also hermiting, or doing what comes natural, what you love to do. Now 11 of these qualities, genetic imprints inside of your design, are about the 3rd line trial and error process. So there's going to be a lot of bonds made and broken in your relationship. As long as it's correct for you to remake the bond, it's going to be healthier and more secure and more comforting when you remake the bond from a higher elevation or a more evolved place. Your 4th qualities are where you can be friendly and influential. As you can see, that's where you have the least amount of elements. So you may not have a lot of friends in your life. You may just be very much focused on the two of you when you come together. And 12, this is the dominant factor in your design. 12 of the qualities of what makes your relationship what it is, and each of you who you are, is about being a heretic, or a messenger, a savior, someone who can sweep in, save the day, rescue in times of crisis. Being very practical. Practical is one of the things that both of you need to remember in your relationship. What is most practical to communicate? What is most practical to get across to this other person right now? To be mindful, you could say, or aware of each other's moods, to honor each other's moods, to refrain from poking the tiger if either of you are in a down wave, and to support each other when it comes to maybe any kind of paranoia you might find, or any kind of issues you might have with knowing each other, what you might think is too well. But in fact, you never really know each other. You only know the thing that the two of you become, and whatever illusions or imagination you might have, fantasies about what the other can be. So it's important to remember each of you are your own sovereign self, never to take each other for granted. That's the 5th line quality that I want to get across to you. Never take each other for granted. Now the 6th quality is where you can have some objectivity in your relationship, or be role models and take things from a higher bird's eye view, where you can remember to walk your talk. Yeah, we're really remembering to walk your talk when it comes to any place where you have these 6 line qualities. Okay, so we're going to break this down even further, but just to get a good view to recap, you're very much about sharing together, and it's very important that you share only what is practical instead of overshare, never knowing when enough is enough, and maybe talking too much action, too much doing can overwhelm each other and burn you out and feel a little bit discomforting or disquieting if you're overdoing it too much, because see, together you have so much energy to find, whereas individually you have a lot less of the definition in the design. And we're going to break that apart piece by piece. So now if we take a look at what you are as projectors, we call them advisors in the BG5 career and business world, you can advise each other, and that's really nice to have in a relationship. We call that type compatibility. So there's no issues or challenges or upsets because of you two being different types. You're actually the same type. You also have the same strategy because you are the same type. Not only are you the same type, but you're also the same subtype, as in you're both energy projectors. You're both focusing on each other and absorbing through recognition, mutual recognition and invitation. And what happens when you come together is that there is a defined sacral center in the connection chart. That's our energy resource. And also what happens is that there's manifesting potential from all of your energy functions, which is quite powerful. Now, when you look at a body graph and you look down and you say, oh, we're a manifesting generator together. No, that's not the case. The definition may look like that, but the difference between a manifesting generator, pure manifesting generator, and two projectors coming together is like the difference between a jet airplane and a motorboat, maybe even a rowboat. Okay, so you're not manifesting generators together, or generators with manifesting potential, ego manifesting, and adrenalized, and all kinds of ways that you could get this energy out to the throat. So we'll take it piece by piece. When we look at first, the most important thing for you to make decisions that you can trust, each of you individually and together, you have the same decision-making process. So this means then that you both are emotionally intelligent. You're broadcasting emotional intelligence in a very specific way. And lucky for you, this only happens once in a great while that I see the people coming to me for an analysis actually having the same authoritative channel. What that means is that your authority channel, as you can see, is the same, the thing that is creating your emotional definition. Now, just because they are the same looking on the surface does not mean they are the same in action. So as you remember from your readings, from doing your foundations, always being sure to remember to be patient when you're up on the wave, never making decisions from that spontaneous moment of inspiration or knowing, but actually coming back home to waiting out over time, sleeping on it, you know, pushing things off, being very clear, slow, you could say, about moving forward. Because what happens when the two of you are together, it's way easier to be pressured to take action now instead of waiting. But the two of you have so many dreams and fantasies together. And those dreams and fantasies are there to share and explore, but not to take action from. In mutual recognition and invitation over time with emotional clarity, yes, the two of you can recognize and invite each other. But it's also a function of life opening up the doorways to possibilities for each of you to fulfill your personal destiny for Lavina and your transpersonal karma for Oren. And thank God the two of you found each other, because you're helping each other fulfill each other's purpose. And we'll share more about that as we go. Now, the defined centers are the next place that we look. And you can see, obviously, solar plexus, the emotional authority, is the same. And then we also have the root center. Our drive and stamina is defined. And then also the throat center, defined. Similarly, but not the same as the emotional intelligence function. So we could put a big happy face on all of these places where you have compatibility. Solar plexus defined to solar plexus defined, root defined to root defined, throat to throat defined. In that, You're not going to be conditioning each other tremendously away from who you are in those places. But there are two places that when you come together, you create definition in the body graph. So we're going to go look at that right now. What happens with you, Oren, is that you experience conditioning to follow Lavina's direction. So what happens in you is that your unconscious moon, your conscious Saturn, your conscious Jupiter, all of these things that are inside the undefined direction, higher self, turns on when you're with Lavina. And when she's in an unhealthy state, she can impose or force her direction on you. And the reason she chose this picture, which you didn't like when I approved the pictures, is because you felt like you were too posed. He didn't like being posed for this picture. I asked him to get on that rock, put his hand on his hip, look towards the mountain, and he looked at that and said, I don't like that picture. I said, well, let me explain why it's here. So that is an example of Lavina attempting to impose her direction on Oren. So just a simple example. Deeper example might be, you ever think back to the relationship you had with Lavina in the beginning, and when she got really inspired about doing something, you noticed that you followed her direction unconsciously. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do that. We want to do this. We want to do that. Instead of, really paying attention to what your emotional authority said over time, which you did. Instead of becoming an analyst, you went your own way. When I was all excited about being an analyst, you were too, until you realized it actually wasn't for you. So thank goodness that one of the things I admire and love about Oren is that he's flexible and fluid in his identity, and that also he has this ability to intuit or know what is correct for him when he waits with emotional clarity, rather than modeling himself on anybody else's direction. He definitely goes his own way and does his own thing. Definitely a heretic. Okay, so there's the experience of following Lavina's direction. Lavina, you experience the conditioning to act spontaneously, because what happens when Oren is around, he defines your splenic center. So there's all these traits, the well, duration, Pluto, North Node, Uranus, another North Node. So a lot of your environmental frequency gets turned on when you're with Oren. You feel safer, more secure. But what happens is, if you, because of his spontaneous ability, he's got quick thinking, lightning fast reflexes. If you take on his splenic survival instincts, if you try to take on his survival instincts or do something like what he's doing, say, I remember the first time when we were running together in the forest in San Diego, trying to keep up, and then also trying to climb a rock face. No, not for me, because that's more his thing, not mine. Okay, so examples like that. Physical safety, security is what Oren brings to you, but it can also, on the flip side, make you think that you have to act spontaneously. So remember to come back home to your authority process. You do not have to take spontaneous action with Oren, just like he does not have to take on your direction or identity. Okay, so that's the defined and undefined centers and connection with each other. Now, what we're looking at here is we have the sacral center and the heart center, so the energy resource and the willpower function, being defined through the connection charts, which are undefined in your individual charts. What that means is you may notice that you'll have more energy when you're around the other person, as far as the energy resource to do things and to potentially take action. Also that you have more willpower when you're together. So in conversation, in communion with each other, if there's some aim or goal, some achievement that you are shooting for, through conversation, the two of you can collaborate, which both of you are designed to do really well, collaborate with each other in order to find your value in the world expressed. And where it's going to be expressed is through Oren's leadership. We'll talk more about how that shows up at the very end of this presentation. So when we take a look at this, oh wait, one more thing. What happens in conditioning is that you could potentially overdo it with each other, as far as not knowing enough is enough, and then also attempt to prove yourselves to each other. So Lavina trying to prove that you're the best to him, Oren trying to prove that you're in control of your financial resources. And I know that you'll recognize those thematics in your relationship. So what happens when you come together is that we have a single definition. Single definition meaning all of the traits that make you who you are, as far as definition that is consistent, come together and then become something that is whole. So I know that you recognize the feeling of wholeness when you are together. This is a picture of your first date, when the day you met, and it was like an immediate attraction and feeling of wholeness. With a split definition, you remember not blaming yourself, not blaming the other, or some of the wisdom potentials that you're learning about in this life, and in collaboration, coming together, being able to, when you're emotionally clear, mutually recognized, manifest more health, safety, and security in the world, more financial abundance in the world, more of the ability to express the tantric love of self and direction in the world, to have more of an ability to improve upon what needs to be improved upon in this world. Your relationship is very concentrated, as far as very powerful when you're together. And as you know, it's correct for Lavina to have a space and time alone as a third line quality. Both of you need alone time in this relationship, retreat time, time for space away from each other so that you do not get tired of each other or take each other for granted. One of the ways that you can do this is to remember to sleep in your own aura. So 2 arms lengths distance or more, because the two of you together have activations that make for a much bigger auric frequency. So generally we tell people 2 arms lengths distance for each person, but for the two of you, I would like to ask you to do as far away as possible, because you have very big auric frequencies, especially together. And dogs do count. And I know you know this because you've experimented with it. Okay. Now, one of the things that we look at when we take a look at relationship analysis is that there are elements of the body graph that are in compatibility. And one of the ways that we look at that, besides type, besides authority, besides definition, we look at circuitry. Circuitry shows us the strengths in the body graph, the channels or flows of energy that are of similar nature. So the two of you together having collective sensing circuitry or abstract circuitry through your channel of recognition, which is a design of focused energy. It's a compatibility here because you're both on the same wavelength, so to speak, emotional wavelength, as in there's this long, slow build of emotional energy, and you're both surfing this crash wave. And what that crash wave does is it's a long, slow build of expectations through your strength of imagination to imagine or fantasize about a new experience and what that feeling, what that experience might bring to you. So what happens, whether you get it or not, at the very top end of the wave, happy, 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 excited, oh my God, we made it, we did it, there's always going to be what goes up must come down, a crash. And at the low end of the wave, it's very important to give each other space and to not take it personally when one or the other of you are down in the dumps. So I can remember in 2014, 15, we were having a lot of challenges, still the very new blushes of our experience of deconditioning. We met in early 2012. So the first 3 years are the hardest. And being able to support each other through those depths of despair, through those deconditioning processes, was very, very helpful to understand that we didn't have to take it personally, that it wasn't anybody's fault when one or the other or both were on the low wave. The nice thing about the two of you, you have a lot of fifth qualities in your design. So you rise to the occasion once the deconditioning happened, when one or the other is in need of a shoulder to cry on or some support because things didn't go the way that we expected or desired, that we give each other space and time and know that tomorrow will be a different story. It's always a different story on the emotional wave. So, you know, to be able to have a compatibility here with your emotional authority is a really cool thing to know. Now, there are different qualities, and we'll go a little bit deeper into how you affect each other later. But to be very plain and simple, Orin, your emotional wave is more inside of you. It's more of a personal, internal process. Lavina's has more of a tendency to go out into the world as far as its expression, and more consistent, I would also say, as far as her up and down expression of the emotional wave. You have more reasonableness, pragmatism to you. Lavina has more volatility because of the energy dynamic that is there and the fact that this is about what she's broadcasting into the world, what she be as she communicates, whereas you communicate when called or asked, invited about your emotional feelings. Okay, so the next place that we're going to go that's really nice is that you're both empowered individuals. You both have your own individual knowing circuitry. Orin, as you know, you have the channel of the brainwave, which is a design of penetrating awareness in the now. And Lavina, you have the channel of inspiration, a design of a creative role model. Both of these frequencies are about being stringent individuals. Orin, you're going through a deeply, profoundly transformative and long-term, lifelong process of gaining wisdom when it comes to your health of your body, because that's what this strength is about. It's one of the health channels. And so learning really what can be trusted when it comes to taking care of one's health is one of the ways that you are influenced when you're in the mood to really put your energy into becoming aware and expressing the awareness of your form. Lavina, your process of being a creative role model is also going through a transformative journey in this life. And when you're in the mood, when you're both moody individuals, but when you're in the mood, you can ground yourself in expressing, holding a group together, expressing a unique direction in service to empowering the group itself to go in a different direction than, you know, maybe the vast majority of people might do, just by living it as an example of you. Okay, so your individual knowing circuitry are very different as far as where they're at in the body graph. The body graph having this energetic flows. I'll explain more when we get further down the road, but if I could put a big old happy face on your compatibility circuitry wise, I would, because this is something that is defined, that you can't change. There's nothing to fix. It's beautiful and perfect. It's just understanding that you each have your own timing for the expression of your knowing or your sensing, and that it needs to come through correct recognition, invitation, emotional clarity, to be able to empower each other in empowerment as an empowered being yourself, and also to share with each other on this journey. So giving each other space and time, again, one of my primary recommendations for both of you. Okay. Now, another thing that we take a look at when we look for compatibility is 70% of who you are in this body graph comes from your incarnation cross. The incarnation cross is your life's work. It is a fundamental key element to understanding what you be in this life and how you fulfill your purpose. So the two of you have resonance in your profile. What that means is that the profile itself has a compatibility within the structure of the costume that you're wearing. Now, because it is not exactly the same, as in you're not both 5-1s, you're not both 3-5s, what is going on here is that, Oren, you have a conscious personality construct that needs to be practical, that has a message, and that can rescue, save, fix others, help in times of crisis. And Lavina, you have a body that does a similar thing, in that your body is projected upon to rescue, save, fix in times of crisis. This resonance between the two of you, needing to remember what is practical, is a compatibility feature of sameness, which makes it more comfortable because you can really get each other. Lavina from the body side, unconscious, being somebody who is expected to have the best of the best come out, and Oren to have other people project onto you that you have what it takes, or that you have the capacity to lead. So in resonance, we have a nice happy face. As far as it's more comfortable, it's actually not a problem at all. Now, where there is a challenge is that we have some difference, real strong difference between the personality constructs and the body constructs. So, Oren, you are far more private and more, doing your own thing. I'm busy. Don't bother me. I'm studying. More of this process of internal body that is looking into things, studying the foundations of things. And that's very different than what Lavina does with her body. Lavina's body has a message to share to people, so she's constantly putting the message out there in recognition and invitation. So your social dynamic is very different. Lavina's going to be making a lot of mistakes with what she thinks about and how she describes her expression of her feelings and her facing of the fates. And she's also going to be very determined in her discovery and trialing and erroring and what does and doesn't work. Now, that is something that you can resonate to on the unconscious body side, because that is something that you personally, a path that you're walking, as far as the quality of the road that you're traveling. So you can really identify or empathize with Lavina's tendency to make mistakes, because that's the path that you're treading or you're walking on. So in compatibility, it's a nice thing to have as far as the combination. It's not an uncommon combination to have. Now, the right angle cross, Lavina, your personal destiny, is about banging into things, discovering what doesn't work, and then bringing forth a new message of what, how we need to change things, the future-oriented empowerment direction, in order to have power skills to bring people together, to hold them together in unique direction. It is important that you are empowered as yourself and in support of Oren, because Oren, one of the reasons that you were reincarnated as a left angle cross is to clear up old karma with other people. And Lavina happens to be one of those people, as you know, from a past life regression. Also, we'll show you mechanically in the body graph why that is. All right, so what we're seeing here is that Lavina, you were born in the quarter of initiation, which is about your purpose being fulfilled through your mind's process, meaning it's all about the process of reincarnation, as far as where this is your imprint, and learning through the trial and error of meeting the fates, about overcoming the fear of what may or may not happen, and being able to ground that in commitment to the right person and also identity. What happens with Oren in your fulfillment of your purpose, you're here to be a leader. You were born in the quarter of civilization, which is about purpose fulfilled through the form. And that form being about, for you, leadership or guiding others in times of crisis. When there is a challenge or an issue with regards to other people's resources, you are someone who can step in and carefully manage the resources of the tribe, not only because of your incarnation cross and your life's work, but also other fundamental elements within your design. So as allies for each other. Oren, as a 5-1, you need allies. Lavina is one of your allies. Not only is she benefiting from your fulfillment of purpose with her, but so too are you being fulfilled in your purpose through the connections that you have together. And when we go into more detail, I'll show you exactly where that's coming from. Because what happens is that both of your incarnation cross gates are being turned on or lit up by each other. Remember, individually, you don't have the heart or the willpower or the sacral, the energy resource defined, but the two of you together in relationship and partnership, now that is defined. So you're turning on the light of each other's purpose in this life. Okay, now here's where we get to one of the challenges in your design, your relationship design. The nice thing about this is that most people who have this configuration, 7 and 2 work to do, find the work very fulfilling. And the nice thing too is that Lavina is one of those people that needs a lot of space in the relationship. So do you. A space to be yourself and to do your own thing and to go your own way. And the work in this relationship is to keep the relationship together. For me personally, it's not very much work because there's a lot of connections, electromagnetics here. But when it comes to learning about things together, about the world, the two of you can go out either the head center, like a doorway, or the ajna center, like a window. So this head center is about inspiration, as far as finding out what is inspiring. Lavina is here to collaborate with others as her conscious drive to help them discover their inner truth. Oren is designed to collaborate with others in order to provide questions or doubts in his relational experience with others, valuing where the pattern is going. So both of you asking laser-focused questions as projectors to give advice and guidance to other people to have success when it comes to either their mind's process or guiding the form. And so what's inspirational for both of you is going to be different because each of you has your own way, your own proclivity. I'm going to walk out the door this way. I'm going to walk off the door this way. You're going to walk out the door that way. And thank you, honey. You just brought me coffee. The process of you understanding each other is going to be over your lifetime of interacting and finding out what's truly inspiring to each other. It's understanding the world, what's truly inspiring in the world. What's a really good question to ask? And who really knows what they're talking about when it comes to rationalizations and answers that help us become aware or conceptualize about things to be certain of. Oren has more of a tendency to go up into the head as far as figuring out where the pattern is going, and then also figuring out what happened in the past that can help him guide other people in this life to have their own experience of getting the best out of themselves. It's one of the things that's very grounding for him. So as a leader, in times of crisis, what Oren can do is reframe past experiences, and he does a lot of that with what we call white magic, spirit magic. And he's here to guide the form. And in this wisdom potential about the conceptualization process of what happened in the past, he can bring forth realistic and down to the fundamentals ideas that are going to bring peace into somebody's life. So the window and the work to do is, are you going to go out the door together, or is one of you going to jump out the window and do something else? Now, again, the nice thing about having a 7 and 2 is that it's okay for you to take the breaks, bonds made and broken for Lavina especially, needing a break. Take the break from being so focused and concentrated on each other, going out into the world and discovering in the flow to be leaders as people who can have a material direction that is supportive of the health, safety, and security, not only of themselves and their tribe, but also of the collective. What happens is when we have this ability to go out these different avenues of expression and then come back together, we learn so much. So you might notice that when you come back together, there's a lot of things to talk about, and we will analyze who's talking about what, whose voice is talking further on down the road. So work to do. I like it for you. I feel like it's a great opportunity for each of you to have space in the relationship. Okay, so now here we have some elements up here. I'm going to just pause my thing because Katja has some questions here. She says, are there signposts for tendency of each individual to use head or ajna as a way out? I mean, who will go where? So who's going to go where is whoever is currently being activated. Depends on which planetary activation it is. As we remember, this one is his Venus. So this one are his Neptunes. So it's his spiritual purpose. He is either going to go this way or he's going to go, that way. And so that's the tendency of what he might do. For me personally, I'm going to tend to go up here. In my experience of being in relationship with him for a very long time, the thing that really captures my attention is that I have this drive to bond with others in relationship to help them discover or figure out their inner truth. So I do a lot of this work online, as you know, and he's doing a lot of his other researchy things that he likes to do during that time. So who's going to go out of what window? Whenever we have an activation, that's going to show a proclivity as far as what they're going to want to do. Is what's the tendency. This is my conscious drive. So when I'm in the mood, waxing and waning inconsistently, I will be going up here. It's not so much about here, unless I'm being activated as a teacher, and I'm re-explaining in my own way. Something that I've found truly worthy of passing on as a concept, like Ra's material, Ra's work. But more and more lately, I notice that I prefer collaborating with others rather than lecturing off slides, as you might have noticed. Okay. And now she's also asking, is it helpful for 7 and 2 configuration to have harmony in the nodal environment from your experience? Yes. I did mention briefly that Warren, across the way that he would identify with and sympathize with how my life is filled with trial and error, because that's what his body is walking. But also here too, when it comes to harmony, compatibility in the nodes, this is not super strong. I mean, I would use this as more of a last resort to try and find the harmony in the relationship for the clients. I might not necessarily go to the extent of explaining it to this couple unless they're like really deep into learning human design and really interested and curious and asking me questions. Yeah, because the most important thing is the profiles. And then we can go to the harmony. So if their profile wasn't resonant or harmonic, I'd go here and say, okay, so we have something nice here in that, and then explain the dynamic that's there. But it's much harder for people to recognize unconscious nodal environments at times. So be very general as far as talking about, the trial and error and, the qualities, the line qualities. Don't go into the specifics of the traits here or you're going to lose them. Okay? All right. If I miss any others, Katja, I might have. I saw that and I went, oh, I have to look at that too. Okay. Let's see. Here's another one. Katja says that Lavina's nodes are in the undefined centers. Yes, exactly. And Oren's nodes are in defined centers. And we together collect our link nodes. Thank you. Yeah. One of the things that is challenging for you, Lavina, you may have noticed this, that your life is completely dependent on having the right people. The success of your life, the sweetness of your life has been very much dependent on who's in your life. This is true for all projectors or advisors, but this is especially true as you have the dynamic we call where the spirit can be broken, as in the spirit of your signature. The essence of your spirit is success. So if you don't have the right person in your life, the continuity and the growth and the nurturing and the empowerment of going in the right direction, it won't be there. It will feel like everything gets torn down and you have to build things all back up again. So to show to Oren Oren. You know, when I say my life would be so boring and so hellish and so nightmarish without you, or I would be so unhappy if you weren't in my life. This is one of the reasons, because without you, my life stinks. Or I remember that anyway, just as far as I'm constantly seeking outside of myself. Whereas when I'm with you, I don't have to look anywhere. I feel much more comfortable being able to do my own thing, empowered, much more. The path before me is clear. Whereas when I'm not with you, I can remember when I wasn't with you, there was this constant seeking, searching, looking, yearning, and imagining what could be. That was very much a part of my mind trying to figure things out, rather than just a sense of knowing and clarity. So the connection of the nodes, being able to get hooked into each other as far as, the road being more stable, easier to walk, and then also my perspective on the road being more tranquil and long-reaching as far as what we could be supportive of, we individually as of each other, and then also in our relationship with our children, most especially, because those are the people that are in our lives more often. Okay. Now, this is a lot. Hang in there. Stay with me. You still with me? Okay. So what we're going to look at now are the ways that each of you create definition in the body graph individually as well as apart, just real briefly to give you a sense of, how you may feel that each of you brings something to the table that you might individually lack, and not to try and take over what the other person's qualities or traits are. Not to try and misappropriate their definition for your own. That is the biggest challenge in a projector-projector relationship, is in being conditioned by the other, attempting to take on the other person's role, which would be horrendous conditioning, and that can lead to terrible bitterness when it comes to your relationship, as in, why do you always get to do this? I want to do that. Why can't I have that? Why are you always the one that, and blah, 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 blah. So we will continue to dive into this. First, we see that we have dominance channels. We already went through this, where we have design of a creative role model. Lavina, this is where Oren, you can see who she really is, because there's nothing getting in the way of her strong, clear, defined identity with respect to who you are in who you are for her. So who she is for you is a creative role model, inspiring creative role model. You can see that, and other people can see that too. What Oren, what Lavina, what you can see about Oren is that you see that he has the brainwave, which is penetrating awareness. Spontaneous words out the mouth before even the thought process goes, hilarious and funny, really wise about health and safety and security, lightning fast reflexes. Did I mention that? So it's really always a surprise to me, like how fast this man can either speak or move with regards to his health, something that he's definitely had some struggles with, but also learning and phenomenally intelligent about. This is a very intelligent design. We have an inside joke. When I met him, he's an ass. He can be. Maybe just the voice, the words coming out of his mouth can be just like, oh, wow, that was blunt. But you know what? He's a very intelligent asshole. And what he says, he's confrontation. So what he says definitely has a lot of weight and truth to it. And so this intelligence about him is one of the things I love so much, because it's interesting, it's engaging, it's insightful, it's intelligent. It's very, 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 very smart. I'm a sapiosexual, if you can't tell. I really like intelligence. So I don't suffer dumb fools, but smart assholes I love. And this is one of them. Okay. So here we have the channel of inspiration, design of a creative role model, as you know, so your success in the world by both the harmonic within the eights, and then a little dissonance here within the moon, the first gate. And so what happens here is that, Orin, you can see how Lavina is objective in her creative self-expression, and also that she has a message to share, part of her dharma, her work in the world, with others in order to empower individuals to go their own way and do their own thing. It's one of the things that brings her great good fortune and good luck, being of service and being willing to be an example for a price. When it comes to her work, make sure that she charges for her work and doesn't give it away freely. It's going to give her great good fortune and good luck, because her channel there, that line, is fixed in the detriment. Okay, so for Orin and Lavina, when you're looking at him, make sure that you don't bug him when he's not in the mood to talk about health, because, and if you ask a question, make sure that you're willing to pay attention to the whole answer. Don't just move on to the next question without letting him get his full rant on as far as explaining what he knows about health and what brings health. As we know, in this dynamic, the 28 has an ability to get the awareness of the 57 to be more empowered for her as well, not just him. So it's great conversations that they have about health, that you have about health, that you can have. And that is really who he is, somebody who's wise about health. Now, the companionship channels we took a look at, channel of recognition, design of focused energy, that's a big happy smiley face in that you're very compatible here, and you can allow each other to have your own emotional wave. As we said earlier, we have focused energy that is very pragmatic for Orin, and it's what you're going to be communicating about. So you're pragmatic in the face of the fears of what may or may not happen that Lavina brings to the table. And you're very reasonable, either vacillating back and forth to the extremes because of the dynamics of her in context, connection with you. As you can see here, what happens is because of her sun and the fact that the sun exalts this quality, and because of her Mars and the fact that Mars detriments this quality, what will happen is you're either going to waste energy, not waste energy on feelings. There we go. You're either going to not waste energy on feelings, or there will be feelings which demand energy. So we call that juxtaposition, where you go into the extremes of the expression of this. Now, side note, pause. If you are doing a really long reading, this is their first reading together, they're not interested in studying human design, I would not go to this length, because it's too much, overwhelm. Another way I might put this is saying, okay, so Lavina, or Orin actually I should say, Orin, you may notice that when you're with Lavina, you're either going to not waste energy on feelings, or your feelings are going to demand energy. That's her influence on you. That's it. Okay? Now the juicy stuff. Electromagnetics are where we love each other, and where we can also get so sick of each other that we really want to break. It's love-hate. Electromagnetic are attraction and repulsion. Each of you has one side of the channel. So together, you make a whole lot more, 7 strengths in the body graph that you're learning about from each other. Okay, so the first thing that we're looking at is that we have the channel of rhythm. This is a design of being in the flow. So you may notice your flow, your rhythm coming more into a flow, a particular flow, when the two of you are together. We also have the channel of the alpha, design of leadership for good or bad. So you may notice that people tend to look at your relationship as something that could lead us into a safer and more secure future, because of what each of you recognize and invite each other to do, and then put out into the world or manifest in your relationship. Channel of concentration is a design of determination. You may notice when you're together that you're going to be way more focused and concentrated. Your relationship is focused and concentrated, and when you're together, it's very intense, and it's very much about going towards the future. What's going to happen in the future? What do we need to be prepared for? What is going to be most satisfying as a direction for your relationship? So that is part of the relationship there, is going to be very logical. Very, very logical. Another logical channel that you have is the channel of judgment, the design of insatiability. This is about looking at the outside world and recognizing that it's really fucked and that there's a lot of things that could be fixed. Or, you know, wanting to correct and perfect. Complaining about, correct bitching please, complaining about the state of political affairs. So there, you'll notice in your relationship, there's a lot of that tends to happen with Orin because of the dynamics of who's got what in this relationship as far as who's talking. And so that is insatiably wanting to correct and perfect the pattern. That's what you're here to see out in the world. Remember not to focus that energy on each other, correcting and perfecting each other. Unless it's recognized, invited, you're literally asking the other, how can I do this better? Okay, that's going to save you a lot of grief when it comes to your relationship dynamics. Now, those were all logical. 1, 2, 3, 4. Logical strengths, meaning your relationship when it comes together makes you way more logical and looking towards the future, and way more pattern oriented as a dominant theme. So your relationship has a lot of patterns to it. Patterns that are healthy, patterns that make you feel safe, patterns that make you feel secure. And as you know, Lavina has fixed rhythms, and it's important to let her have her fixed rhythms so that she doesn't get dysregulated. Now together, another thing that you create is the channel of money, a design of a materialist. What happens here is that because you're both very imaginative creatures, you may find yourself talking a lot about how you're going to spend the money that you earn or that you may earn. And that it is correct for you to collaborate with each other on how to spend the money. Lavina about how to release the money for Orin to spend, technically. So there may be challenges about who owns what and what are we going to buy with our money in your relationship dynamic. Now, the channel of surrender, design of a transmitter, this is the creative art of enterprise, further along the stream, down the stream of capitalism. What this is about is being able to have the successful love that engenders more security on the physical plane, on the material plane. And so that is something that really works well with the two of you when we go and look at the dynamics together. And then we also have us surrendering to the relationship being about communication of finances and also stuff. This is a relationship that generates more stuff, I could say, with success and satisfaction. The channel of discovery is a design of succeeding where others fail. And that is our last electromagnetic that you have. So in your relationship dynamic, this is one that can succeed where others may fail. Most especially true because we have a compatibility or a harmonic pairing here that is about Lavina's life's work, and Orin bringing her commitment and dedication to this form and this body in your relational dynamic. Okay, so channel of rhythm, design of being in the flow. Lavina, your inner peace and joy is activated by Orin's ego inflation. So what happens because of this dissonant electromagnetic connection, which defines the identity and direction for Orin, defines the energy resource for Lavina, what can happen is your rhythms may be really off kilter sometimes. And Lavina, you need to be careful not to go into Orin's extremes of his flow, and pay attention to doing the things that you know bring you comfort, your little patterns, rituals, and routines. Don't let him pull you to stay up really late at night. You know that's not good for you, that kind of thing. So just some guidance around who is what. Lavina, you might be very amused at Orin's state of acceptance or not of the love of humanity. This is a gate of impersonal love. So because you turn on one of his love traits, for Orin, this is a very sexy electromagnetic, as in attractive. Even though it's not exactly the same, it's something that makes him feel his sense of identity and direction and self is more clear or crystallized when he's with you. So it's a love trait, transcendent love of humanity, or not. Okay, the channel of the alpha, design of leadership for good or bad. Lavina, you have the discipline to abdicate when step down. When somebody wants you to lead, you will, but you'll step down when the rule of the majority asks you to. Orin, what happens with you is that in influence with others, you're in an environment where you see other people's influence, and you're watching what it takes to observing what it takes to get to the bottom of manifesting that influence into the world. That's what you're really attuned to. So what happens, this is a harmony in your electromagnetic connection, as in energy that can work really well together. It does, again, define the G center for you, so your higher sense of direction and self. And Lavina, you're like the power behind the throne. I know you like that. In response or respect to his leadership, you will take a back seat and you will provide a plan. But it is up to Orin as to whether or not that plan is put into action, or to administrate the details of what may need to happen in order for your logical direction to manifest out into the world. Okay, so that leadership for good or bad. Next, we have the channel of discovery, where you're succeeding where others fail. This is where we want to take a really quick peek at the fact that this is the earth. This is Lavina's grounding of her purpose in this life, and the fact that Orin, your Jupiter in the 3rd line of projection, and your Saturn in the 6th line of integrity are both harmonic and resonant to Lavina's purpose. So this is why with him you can more likely fulfill your life's work, because of his rule, luck, being in the right place at the right time, as well as his discipline and his integrity to love the body. This is the love of the body. It's a gate of impersonal love, not just your body, honey, but all bodies, all forms. He loves bodies, so make sure you keep yours in good shape and healthy so that you are happy. Now, I need to make a little side note here. Orin once told me, I don't care whether or not you get fat. I just won't probably get turned on by your by your state. And I can really understand where he's coming from there, as far as like it seems superficial, but it's also about the health of the body. So we'll still be best friends, he told me. We'll still be married, but we may not have a lot of sex. Hey, confrontation, very blunt, very honest. There's a little bit of the intelligent asshole there that I love so much. Okay, but I like it because it helps keep me motivated to stay in shape for me, for my health, and also for the success of our relationship. This is where we go out into the world together and discover new experiences. So it's resonant, harmonic, defines a love trait for Orin again, so love of the form, and also defines her, Lavina, your sacral center or your energy resource. Okay, so sharing that discovery of going out into the world in adventure and new experiences. So this is where we had challenges. When it comes to this relationship, Lavina has evaluation in either the power to wait or the power of caution. Both are about waiting, kind of a mirror to the trait 5, gate 5, which is about waiting. What happens in dynamic with Orin, because he has Jupiter in that dynamic of the 46, what you'll notice is instead of the power to wait, now we have Lavina with the power of caution and the inability to make commitments. So one of the shadows of our relationships, and it was actually correct for me because I needed to be very, very careful, but one of the shadows was I would my mind would constantly imagine somebody else in relationship. So going into somebody else's relationship, not with him, and thinking that there was something wrong because I was fantasizing about someone else, which, as we'll see with the 41 is about fantasy in love and relationship. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what the mind thought was that, okay, so he must not be the one, because I can't commit to him. And then also hiding things. You know, 3rd line, making mistakes and then lying about it in order to hide the mistake. So this is where we had a bit of a challenge. Even though we have a harmonic here, there was a pulling into the difficulty. Okay. So I might not, if these were new people to me, I might not go into that depth, of course, because I might not know about it. But now that I know what to look for, I might ask, you know, have you noticed that? And then asking the question. Okay. So once I got over myself, one more thing. Once I got over myself, my mind, and once I saw I was faced with the same issue that someone else was doing to me, my life shifted radically. So anyway, it was a very nice experience to have, to come to success about. So now we have the channel of concentration, a design of determination. Remember, Lavina, you are very sensible with the practical focus of the details, the next step in the logical pattern. And with Oren, what happens is that his concern and his explanation leads you to be able to sit still and concentrate. And with him, you have your ability to respond, to have this detailed focus when you're discussing future matters. There is a dissonance in this electromagnetic connection, meaning it might not work optimally all the time, but it's definitely a big part of your relationship, because this is what Oren values about you, is helping him find a focus for his concentration. What this does is this electromagnetic dynamic is that it defines the energy resource for you, Oren, as well as Lavina. So it gives you more energy to be determined and concentrated to move forward in the world, to evolve in a logical way. Now, the channel of judgment, a design of insatiability, this is where we have another dissonant electromagnetic connection that bridges Oren's split. This is the love trait that Lavina brings to the table that turns on her splenic center with him, besides the fact that he brings in his own definition. So it defines the splenic center for you, Lavina. It's a gate or trait of personal love. And you'll notice both of your Venuses are in relational dynamics. So it's something that you really love about each other, is the conversation, the logic, you know, projecting into the future, being able to have discussions about what could be corrected and perfected in the world, what issues there are, what challenges, the world at large, you know, the correct bitching, really fun, humorous, fun and humorous, absolutely. As long as you don't take it too seriously or try to do anything about what you see out there in the world. Okay, and one of the things I would say is, because I was really not concerned, but curious and unaware before I got my reading, I was like, why do I love this guy so much? Unconscious love trait getting turned on, and then all these other love traits, 244s, 128, as far as him, you know, his presence, his availability and companionship and connection and communion, all of that turning on so many love aspects in my life that I found really valuable to have an expression of with him. Okay. Channel of money, design of a materialist. More specifically, we have a dissonant electromagnetic connection that defines the heart center for you, Oren, and also the heart center for you, Lavina. So what happens here is, Lavina, you are no stranger to feeling powerless in the face of somebody who has more power than you. And one of the mistakes that you made in the beginning of the relationship was attempting to give your power over to Oren in order to have him lead and make the decisions rather than you constantly making mistakes. As we know, that did not work out well for either of you. It was a game that you played in the beginning, the dominance and submission role, him being the master, you being the submissive. But what he recognized in you was that that wasn't really what you wanted, and that what you wanted was to be empowered as yourself. And so slowly over time, he helped reframe things in order to help you find your own individual sovereignty and your independent power. And this is where we have the channel of surrender stepping in to fulfill his life work with you. Gate 44 is about, for you, unusual past fear of unusual past experiences. Yeah, the past life even, potentially. And what happens here with Oren, this is part of your incarnation cross. It is what is grounding for you, to be able to control the memory of what happened to somebody in the past in order to help them have a more safe, secure, well-being body awareness of, this love of success, and then also to help support Lavina to feel better about her self-worth and her self-esteem. So one of the things that Oren has done over his whole life since he was a young adult, not even a teenager, is study hypnosis. He's a hypnotist, a certified hypnotherapist, and also neuro-linguistic programming. And he did a lot of work with me in order to see fifth line resonant harmonic, in order to get me out of the stuck negative thought patterns, looping, disempowering not only feelings but also experiences that I had, in order to reframe what I thought of myself, because I was very much in the negative third line process of there's something wrong with me, I'm never good enough, and nobody loves me. Nobody could really love me if they knew who I was. Oh, here on this image, you're seeing, this is the material success, the love of success in making money, the creative art of enterprise. So one of the first things we did together, this is me channeling on stage at Lightning in a Bottle, and he took the microphone around and was allowing people to ask questions. So you can see that there was some success there, and I really loved that experience. Okay. Dreams of love. Here's the love traits. The love in this dynamic that is resonant with each other are the dreams of love. So what Ra's joke about this is, I love you, I'm going to fantasize about somebody else, and the one who lets you fantasize about somebody else really loves you. So that's the thing. Our fantasies. Sex with love is the only trait here. The 41 is the only trait that has sex as an element of love. It's a deeply sexual stream that they have connecting here together. The root of all pornography, you could say, being stimulated by the visual experience or the imagination of what could happen. And so it's a very heavily sexually charged relationship dynamic that they have. Identifying with falling in love with the other person once you have sex. We both can identify with that, how it's easier to fall in love with somebody once you've opened yourself up sexually to them. Shared dreams of love and sexual experiences together. Okay, so there's that one. The love of humanity we talked about, love of the body for Oren. Those are things that Lavina turns on. And then aligned love and love with purpose and successful love. These are all aspects that Oren turns on for Lavina. So as far as their love traits, these are very powerful electromagnetic pulls where Lavina feels like their love together has a purpose, that they can be successful together in that love. Materially successful is important to her, as well as aligned, you know, the love that proves the strength of love. As in, I love you, let me correct and perfect our relationship together in the world, is a better way of putting it. And him helping her learn about the love of the body through his example and his good fortune and good luck, as well as her turning on his love for her body, as well as his love for humanity or not. Okay. Next, we have last but not least the voices. So Oren and Lavina, you might notice that the two of you have a lot of conversations. The relationship, the conversation is the relationship when it comes to your relationship together. And what you'll notice if you look on the slide is that more of the green shows up than we do have the blue. You're in blue, Lavina, and Oren is in green. So Oren has more to say in the relationship. Not to mention that those activations are all directly connected up to energy, whereas only one of yours is connected up to energy. So you have a lot less to say in relationship to this man. He's a motor mouth when he's around you, and it's not either of your fault. It's just the relationship dynamic. So you can let him have lots to say. Let's look at this individually. You have the voice of I can or I can't, and you may feel like you're certain or uncertain. That frequency comes out in the voice as far as your ability to contribute your unique individual direction to empower and inspire others. Orin, your voice of knowing, the I am now voice, can either show up as decisive or indecisive. You're learning to be wise about what you intend to manifest in the world, because that is something that you notice that you can do. So the voice of empowered awareness of what brings health, safety, and security is yours in the relationship, the I am voice. What happens with you, Lavina, is that you may insist or desist that you know. I know or I don't know. And that is empowering, most especially when you're using what you know to communicate your individual insight to the collective. It's what brings you good fortune and good luck. And with Orin, you are the one who has the expression of leadership on the material plane from two places. Lavina is your power behind your throne. Here is the elected leadership, which is about having authority or feeling powerless when it comes to the expression of the direction of your little family unit, okay? Or your direction. She's able to give you some stability, structure there. Now we have your channel of money, Orin, where you are a materialist and you have the I have voice, which is possessive or non-possessive. And this possessiveness is about not only things, but also people too. So I remember one of the things that you noticed about us in relationship is that you became more possessive of us against the world. This is that kind of energy, tribal, us against them. And so it's a dynamic of our leadership that once I am part of your tribe, as you know with anybody who's part of your tribe, you take possession of and responsibility of leading them in a healthy, more empowered and supportive direction. So this is your voice, is when you say I have or I don't have. Another voice that you share here. This is where you both share a lot of experiences together, sharing stories with each other of what happened in the past, the experience that you had, inexperience or experience of what happened that you become clear about over time as you journey together in the adventures of life, remembering to share what you remember with each other, to grok each other completely, and to witness and watch as you grow in maturity and sovereignty as individuals and then also as a couple in the world. Okay, there we go. So I might give you some blah blah blahs as far as like if it's really was somebody that I didn't know, some remembrances and a little bit of time for questions. That was an overview of what I might do with somebody, and also some little storytelling there as well. You're very welcome, Jean. So I would love to know if you have any questions. Thank you, Charlotte, about anything specific that you noticed or would like clarity on.